This is Plant-Based Briefing. Dairy study uses 7 white men to represent all Americans, from switchforgood.org. And I'm Marian Erickson, and this is the curated content plant-based podcast for people short on time but curious about plant-based and vegan living. There are so many reasons to live a vegan lifestyle. The main 3 are, of course, the animals, as well as the environment and human health. But there are so many more. Wildlife, biodiversity loss, slaughterhouse workers, farm workers, environmental racism, dietary racism, world hunger, pandemics, antibiotic resistance. The list really goes on. And I find articles on these topics and more, get permission, and read them to you here in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. Today's article is about health and how bad dairy is for human health, but it's also about how industry-funded studies are also designed to come out with specific end results in mind. And I've done a number of other episodes about this as well, many of them from nutritionfacts.org. And Switch for Good, too. They're an evidence-based nonprofit dedicated to rattling the accepted norms around dairy and health, working to abolish the current system of dietary racial oppression, and they're promoting solutions for climate change. They also have a great podcast hosted by Olympic medalist Dotsie Bausch and Baywatch actress and health coach Alexandra Paul. Their founding story is pretty cool as well. Dotsie Bausch was shocked and angered by a dairy commercial she saw during the 2018 Winter Olympic trials. She was already frustrated by dairy's infiltration of Team USA, and she was sick of the industry pushing its products on athletes or using athletes' platforms to sell dairy to the American public. So she gathered together a group to film their own commercial. It featured 6 athletes declaring that they had made the switch for good to improve their athletic performance. And it aired during both the 2018 Winter Olympic closing ceremony and the pre- and post-show Oscars. So this tiny team of elite athletes blossomed into a full-blown, women-led nonprofit organization. You can find out more about them and all kinds of great information at switchforgood.org. And now let's get to today's plant-based briefing. Dairy study uses 7 white men to represent all Americans, from switchforgood.org. Why is chocolate milk so ingrained in sports culture? Milk has science on its side. The industry pays for studies that are designed to yield positive results, and these, often barely statistically significant results, are turned into national advertising campaigns to convince consumers to buy more milk. The Built with Chocolate Milk campaign cites this study linked here to uphold milk as the optimal post-workout recovery beverage. This particular study claims that milk hydrates better than water or sports drinks, but when we look deeper at the actual methodology and the numbers, we found the industry's interpretation to be extremely flawed. Funded by dairy. Funded by the National Dairy Council of Ireland, the researchers were pressured to achieve results that favored dairy. Most industry-funded researchers accomplish this by designing the study in a way that they are confident will benefit a particular product. The science is true, but the methodology is rigged. In this study, researchers assured favorable milk outcomes by designing a highly controlled scenario not applicable to real life. The 7 participants. First, it's necessary to look at the participants. The Built with Chocolate Milk campaign claims chocolate milk is essential for all athletes, no matter their race or gender. However, only 7 white, lactose-persistent Irish men with an average age of 26 years were chosen for this study. The lack of diversity is laughable, and this minuscule number of participants is not significant enough to yield conclusive results, especially not for a diverse population. Study methodology. These 7 participants underwent 2 trials of dehydration and rehydration. The participants fasted, no food or water, for 5 hours, and then exercised in a warm environment until they had lost 2% of their body mass. Then, over the course of 5 hours, participants rehydrated with either 1% milk, Powerade, or water until they had consumed 150% of their body mass loss. Study results. Researchers found that the milk drinkers had a lower urine output, higher net fluid balance, and higher plasma osmolality. These markers informed the conclusion that milk hydrates better than water or Powerade. However, what these results really show is that most likely milk stays in the body longer and causes water retention. For the vast majority of people, water retention is not a desired trait. Further, hydration markers such as sodium level and CT-Pro-AVP remained constant amongst all 3 beverages. These factors may present a clearer picture of one's state of hydration, not water retention, and yet milk had no superior effect in these 2 areas. Another factor not addressed in the conclusion is the fact that the milk drinkers restored their caloric deficit by 106%, meaning they overconsumed what they needed. If people exercise to lose or maintain their weight, drinking milk or chocolate milk post-workout could derail the work they just put in. Slanted conclusions. Finally, the scenario is simply not applicable to real life. Most people do not fast for 5 hours post-workout. There's no way to tell how hydration would be affected with food. Also, most people are not 26-year-old Irish men. The results are for a very select group of individuals and cannot be applied to an entire population. Milk has science on its side, but that doesn't mean we should trust it. Unfortunately, studies can be manipulated, and the industry can pick and choose what results to feature. Milk is not an optimal exercise recovery drink, and it doesn't do a body good. Find out what the ads aren't telling you, with more information linked here. You just listened to Dairy Study uses 7 white men to represent all Americans from switchforgood.org, and I'm your host, Marian Erickson, and I literally cracked up when I read this article. How ridiculous. But the industries do this all the time. They either design the study to assure certain outcomes, or in their conclusions, they only report part of the outcomes. That's one of the reasons Switch for Good and other organizations do such important work. They are science-based and they provide the truth, not the industry-slanted version of actual studies and results. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.